Money is one of the most important life skills we can learn today. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build this simple, effective finance tracker in Excel or Google Sheets that lets you keep an eye on every dollar. You can analyze by category, by month, and year on year. And the best part is you can set it up in less than 15 minutes and the report automatically updates. Now, if English isn't your first language or the pace is too fast, you can use the cog icon in the bottom right of the video to change the playback speed. You can also download a free copy of the file from the link in the video description or pinned comment. All right, let's dive in. The first thing we need to do is create a list of income and expenses we expect to have. You can see I've started a list of subcategories, which I've then organized into larger categories to help us analyze spending. And then I have a column that marks them as expense or income. And we've got one here for bank transfers, which we aren't going to report. And before I can add any more items, I'm going to format this as an Excel table with the keyboard shortcut Control-T. My table has headers. I'll click OK. And then let's just give it a subtle format in this gray stripe. You can see on the Table Design tab, this is Table 2. Let's rename it Categories, and that'll just make it easy to reference. Now this list is fully customizable. I'll add another variable for vacation, and that's going to be an expense. And notice when you enter it on the very next available row, the table expands to include it in its range. And this means that anything referencing this table will automatically be able to see that new item. No further editing of formulas, etc. required. Now we'll be referencing the subcategories in a drop-down list. And to enable that to auto-update when new subcategories are added, I'm going to define that column as a name. We do that on the Formulas tab, and then Define Name. We'll call it Subcategories. And you can see here it refers to the Categories table, Subcategory column. Click OK. Now note, if you're using Google Sheets, you don't have to define a name for the subcategory column. Next, we need to classify our bank transactions with a subcategory. Now I've got a table here with some dummy data, but you copy and paste the transactions in from a bank statement for the date, description, debit and credit columns. And I recommend you also enter the account that the transactions relate to, and this allows you to record multiple accounts in the one table, which is handy if you want to filter the data and look at a specific account. Next, I'm going to add a formula that takes the income minus the expenses, or the credits minus the debits. This is just going to give me one column containing all of the values which I'm going to use in the report. You can see the income is positive and the expenses are negative. Next, I need to set up the drop-down list for the subcategory, and that will enable us to understand where our money is going. I'm just going to select the cells in the subcategory column, and then on the Data tab, I've got Data Validation. Here I want a list, and for the source, it's going to be the name I set up for the subcategories. Now, if you can't remember what the name was, press the F3 key, brings up the names, select it, click OK, and now I can click OK. And you'll notice now I have a drop-down list, so I can classify each of the rows. This is going to be interest earned. This one is a bank transfer, and I'll just pause while I do the rest. Next, I can use the XLOOKUP or VLOOKUP function to look up the subcategory in the categories table, in the subcategory column, and return the category. And if it's not found, it'll be because I haven't assigned a subcategory. So we can put the message add subcategory in here, close parentheses on XLOOKUP. There's my categories. Let's repeat for the category type. So again, we're going to look up the subcategory, the categories table, subcategory column, and return the category type. And if it's not found, it'll be because we need to add a subcategory. Close double quotes, close parentheses, and there's my category type. Okay, the hard work is done here. Each month, all you'll need to do is go to the very bottom of the table, and on the very next row, add in your new data, or you can copy them in from your bank statement, and then you can assign them with a subcategory. Now we're ready to build the report, which is also a one-off job because once it's set up, you can update it with the click of one button. I'll use pivot tables to rapidly build a report. Now don't worry if you haven't used pivot tables before. They're super easy when the data is structured correctly, as it is here. Now on the Insert tab of the ribbon, Pivot Table, I'm going to put it on an existing worksheet which I've got set up here, and I'll pop it in this cell. Click OK. Let's grab the field list and make it a bit bigger. So here I want the category type in the filters, and then I want to look at the categories, subcategories, and my income/expense. On the filter here, I only want to see income. Click OK, and let's right click and we'll sort this from largest to smallest. I'm going to add the income and expense again. I'm going to use this one to add in some bars to create a bar chart. On the Home tab of the ribbon, we'll use conditional formatting data bars, and I'll go with the solid fill. Let's go back into the conditional formatting manage rules dialog and double click the rule to edit it. Here I want to apply it to all cells showing sum of income, expense, values for subcategory. Let's change the color to green. That'll be the color for our income, and click OK and OK. All right. With the bar there, I need to hide all of the text in this column so that we can just see the bar. And I'll use a custom number format to do that. So Control-1 to open the formatting dialog box. On the number tab, custom. And in here, just type in 3 semicolons. That will hide all of the text and numbers in the column. Click OK. And now we just have our bar that represents the size of the values for the subcategories. Now, one more thing I want to do is change the heading here to say income, and I'll go to the Pivot Table Analyze tab. We'll turn off field headers, and let's right click the pivot table and go into Pivot Table Options. I'm going to turn off Auto Fit Column Widths on Update. That will just prevent the pivot tables adjusting the column widths constantly. I'll click OK, and that pivot table is done. One thing I might do though is just move it down to row 4. I'll copy this pivot table and paste it here, and we're going to modify this for the expenses. Click OK. Now for this one, I don't want the subcategories. Let's change this to expense, and let's right click and sort them smallest to largest. Now we need to add the conditional formatting again. So conditional formatting, data bars, solid fill. And then we need to go in and manage the rules. Double click to edit the rule. We're going to put it on all cells showing income and expense, values for category. And then in negative value and axis, I want the fill color to be pink for my negative values. And then the bar direction, I want right to left. This is going to be counterintuitive, but because we're dealing with negative values, we want to flip it. I'll click OK and OK. And there's our expense.